Hello and welcome back, Shark Heroes, to another episode of Deep Dives with Sharks. I am the host here. My name is Alex, and we do a little bit of everything sharky here at this point. We talk about shark species, shark-human interactions, and how to stay safe, shark news. We review shark movies for accuracy. I reviewed one aquarium, hoping to do more in the future. We do it all here, including Shark Week versus Shark Fest, which we've done. This, I think, will be the fourth iteration of it. I did goof up in 2024 by calling it Shark Week versus Shark Fest 2025 and corrected that. So I'm here to let you know it's actually Shark Week versus Shark Fest 2026 this year, which is exciting. But before I jump into all that, I do have an exciting announcement. So we are close to making it in the Spotify Partner Program, which is something we've been working at for a little while. And the cool thing is that nothing will have to change on your guys' end other than you just might hear some ads throughout the episodes more. I'm only going to try to keep it to like one. But of course, if you hear those, I tried to not put them in when it wasn't going to benefit me or it was just going to be annoying to you guys and really serve no purpose. But they might go back in if it's actually going to make me a little bit of money, which would be cool. And also it helps because then I don't have to only rely on merch sales or anything like that, or trying to beg you guys for money because, times be tough. There's no reason to send me $5 million or anything like that. Unless you want to. That'd be really cool. But, there's no reason to. So just wanted to give you that fun, exciting bit of news. You guys might start hearing ads because we might be able to start making a little bit more on this. And then I can actually go out and see more aquariums and talk about them more and possibly do more sharky things with it. But I just wanted to share that fun little bit of news. But we're going to get into the actual sharkiness of the episode now. So first and foremost, if you guys are unfamiliar with the Shark Week versus Shark Fest episodes, I tend to watch both events and then I go back and I watch 3 programs from each. So I watch 3 Shark Week shows and 3 Shark Fest shows. For those of you unaware of what those are, you might live under a rock and that's okay. But Shark Week is Discovery's shark-themed programming and Shark Fest is National Geographic's, which also will be referred to as Nat Geo. So I watched 3 of them. I've got all my notes in front of me here, and then I kind of go over what I liked, what I didn't like, and I guess I've kind of declared a winner in the past, although I don't really understand. Well, I mean, I kind of do understand what I was going for. I usually go off of who I felt delivers the shark conservation method the best, and, in previous years, there's been a very clear winner. We'll see if that happens this year, but I'm going to start by going right into the Shark Week shows, as they were the ones that I actually had a few folks recommend some shows to watch, and I forgot to put your names down, so I greatly apologize. But starting with Shark Week, we did K-pop Shark Heroes. Immediately on the intro of the episode, they made a Left Shark reference and started by calling out the media on their shark reporting, and I'm on board so far. This was a nice change that I saw from previous years where they would kind of just immediately go into shark fear-mongering. This time they're kind of like, hey, the media's kind of been crap at reporting on sharks and making them very scary and freaky and weird, and I just don't love it. I did immediately put right under that, Ken Jeong is still hilarious. I will die on that hill. I do not care who you are. You put some respect on Senior Chang from Community. Now, early on, they had great messaging behind the program. I always am doing this like while I'm recording it, so the notes are going to be very in the moment of the episode, which I try to give you a little bit of context on, so that way it doesn't just come out randomly. But they had great messaging behind the program early. They pointed out negative rhetoric online and in media, which is awesome. That's what I end up doing on my safety segments of these episodes, where I kind of show how a lot of it can be sensationalized, which is just annoying. Now, this program did, of course, you're probably wondering where the K-pop comes in, because Ken Jeong is not a K-pop artist even remotely. God love him. But they had Ray Emmy there. I almost always call her Ray Amy. It's Ray Emmy. Figured that out. But she is the K-pop star who is the voice of Zoe from K-pop Demon Hunters, and she's also UMD alumni. So Maryland represent. Let's go. Now, I will say that they are still super celebrity focused at Shark Week versus focusing on the shark, but you do have to pay the actors and not the sharks. So I guess it makes sense they're going to give Ken Jeong and Ray Emmy a lot of screen time and kind of let them show off their accolades there. Now, they did a great job once they focused on the sharks and discussing shark behavior and how they're normally docile. They did do a great job of this. They had Ken Jeong pull up on the boat, and I think he made a joke about like them being in a frenzy or whatever, and the expert was like, yeah, this is usually their normal state, just hanging out, being docile, being cool, being chill. And I really liked it. So I was like, that's insane. Now, they also did have a bait that they had thrown in when they were doing like their first dive, and one of the sharks, when he's going for it, it hit its head on the boat, and the thought that went through my head was to go, ah, you freaking goof. And I just thought that was kind of funny because, you know, sharks just do be goofy and they do stuff like that for no reason. So I was like, you know, let's comment on that real quick. Now, in Shark Week fashion, though, we have to make sharks look scary before we go to a commercial break. So we'll have them bite a camera and someone tells someone else to stop, but they don't. They had Ken Jeong throwing like chum in the water from the surface while Ray Emmy and one of the shark experts were free diving. They did make it seem like Ken was going overboard. I guarantee he wasn't. I guarantee they probably just threw Ken, that's enough in there or something like that. And then like a shark bite a camera to make you think, oh, we're about to lose the K-pop demon hunter over here. Crazy. But no, everyone was fine. So that, I mean, gonna leave that right where it is. Now, they do correct course though, and they discuss how sharks don't want to eat people. They relate it to how some folks don't like celery. I don't know why we're taking shots at celery though. That stuff slaps. That I put in the note. I think I really wanted some ants on a log or something like that, even though I don't really want I really just want celery and peanut butter. It's delicious. I do like it. It's a good, nice snack. So if y'all need a snack, go get some celery and peanut butter. I don't know who in the world would sponsor me from the celery and peanut butter market, but you know, Jif, hit me up. I got you. Now, this episode did do a great job of discussing shark communication and their lack of hands, but abundant teeth. Of course, the way that sharks communicate, I've talked about forever ago, is a lot of biting each other or like kind of nipping at the gills, pushing each other. They can't be like, hey, dog, get away. This is my salmon. They're just going to bite each other because that's how they say that. And they're designed to do that. We just have fragile skins. When they try to communicate with us, we tend to get hurt. But usually they explain, or sharks discuss in other ways with us how to get away from them. So they're not just beating us up, which is greatly appreciated. Now, they do a great job of also showcasing the lateral line senses, which is often overlooked because, of course, no one really ever talks about the lateral line, myself included. It does help to detect vibrations in the water. So when they throw silicone gel in the ocean to get a shark to bite it, it slaps and vibrates, and their lateral line picks that up to help them locate it better. So I did love that they did that. Same commercial issue throughout the program. I'm going to shake them. Yeah, they just kind of keep doing that whole like, something terrifying, and a shark doing like a jump or something, and then you go back and the shark's normal and everyone's fine. You're like, oh, great. Now, they did set up human blood versus fish blood to see how sharks react, which I do like to see. One of the big common myths is that if you're bleeding, you shouldn't get in the water. Still, while this is a good idea to prevent like infection, anything like that, it's not really going to attract sharks. So what they'll do, they had human blood, which was actually donated by one of the researchers, which is wild. I mean, where else would they get it? I guess like a blood bank, but they didn't. They got it from a person on the crew, and they were able to show that our blood doesn't contain what the sharks are looking for. What they want is the fat in the fish blood that human blood just doesn't have the same concentration of. So they're not looking for us. Hammerheads actively avoid us, which is sick. So, you know, I did like that they pointed that out. Now, it wouldn't be a Shark Week program if we didn't release a massive chum ball for some reason. What does this show? Sharks like chum? I still stand by that. They literally had what looked like a giant wrecking ball of chum that they released in the water, and of course sent the sharks into a frenzy, and they're like, whoa, look at what's happening. And it's like, yeah, you just spent the whole program being like, sharks aren't monsters. They're not scary. We shouldn't be afraid of them. And then you just show them going absolutely ham on this chum. Of course they're going to look freaky and scary here. Like, what are we expecting? That just irritated me. But, you know, I did have to give points to the program for showing how great hammerheads have avoided people while hunting. I did just discuss that literally seconds ago. But they did show video of drone footage of a hammerhead shark hunting close to shore in Florida, and people standing in the water not realizing it's there, and it quite literally darts around them to go get the ray that it's hunting. They don't want us. They like, we're just in the way, and they're like, you kind of suck because now this ray is like circling around you, and I'm circling around you, but I'm not going to bite you because you taste gross. So, people don't like celery. Anyway, now showing the hammerhead investigating the metal plates, and Ray says, she's so beautiful as they're playing spooky music in the background. Why? Now, this was one of those that I just kind of had to pick on the editing. They did try to showcase how hammerheads are designed to hunt things on the ocean floor and even buried under the sand. It was actually a really cool experiment and setup to show. And I thought it was really cool. But then in the background, they have like do da do da boo ba ba ba, like that kind of music going on, and it's just like heavy drums, and like it's not building anticipation. It's like building like there's a serial killer behind you and they're coming for you. And I was like, this is just like the hammerhead's just reacting to the electric stimuli that's there, and they're trying to like get under the plate a bit. Like that's all that's happening here. And instead we've made it like, oh, look at the ferocious scary beast. Like, it made no sense. Now, I had to end this program on Ray Emmy happy crying was the best. Like, this is why sharks are so cool. They're so complex yet so cool and don't want to eat us. Like, it was something that like she had mentioned she had a whole misconception of sharks, and then getting to dive with hammerheads like made her happy cry. And then that made me super excited, because I feel like in the past, and this is not to send shots at Michael Phelps, Mike Tyson, Tiffany Haddish, I cannot remember anyone else they've had on, but it was just one of those that like, it was really cool to see, because I feel like the rest of them were like, yeah, that was awesome. And then they cut. Like, her actually being like, no, like these sharks are so beautiful and so cool, and they don't want to eat us. It's like, yes, thank you. Like, this is the messaging I've been wanting from you guys for years. But I did have to give it an 8 out of 10, because it was very cool, still very celebrity focused, which once again, I do understand you got to pay the celebrities. You don't got to pay the sharks. But I did feel like we didn't need Ken Jeong making a K-pop song, whatever the hell that was. We didn't need. I did think it was a good bit of fun to have Ken Jeong and Ray Emmy. I felt like they had really good chemistry, but I do feel like the whole show was like teasing, like, oh, look at this K-pop song Ken Jeong wrote, and it, of course, it's going to be not great. Like, what were we expecting? Like, anyway. So the next program moving on to is Biggest Mako on Earth. Now, I love Makos, and I will rip this to shreds if it makes them look evil. Makos are probably one of my top 5 sharks. I love them very much. They were one of the sharks I was considering getting a tattoo of, and have not ruled off the table for future tattoos, but I have a thresher shark instead. I like him a lot. I haven't named him. I've never settled on a name. I got it years ago and I have not named it. So, let me know what I should name my tattooed shark in the comments. Now, in this program, they got pretty wild shots of the massive Mako compared to a blue shark. And they set up that they're going to try to find it again around Cabo. Now, my only gripe so far is that Makos love to migrate and can travel hundreds of miles in a day, but who knows? This was also, they noted, towards the end of the season. So at this point, it's going to be moving up the coast. I believe it was in, this program took place on the West Coast. So it would have been moving up the coast of California at this point, unless it was hanging around for some reason. But at least the way that I know the East Coast Makos move in the Gulf is once they hit kind of like late August, they're usually not that they're not in the Gulf anymore, but especially by late August, they're about to come back down to the Gulf. So they're getting ready to migrate back. They're definitely they're gone. They're gone by that point. So I just didn't really understand what they were doing investigating so much later than the video came out, but I could be wrong there. There we go. So Tristan Guttridge is here again. He was in the K-pop Shark Heroes. I did not play in this. I'm assuming he got a fat paycheck. I have nothing against Tristan. Was actually the one that donated blood, I believe. Yeah, he's the one that donated blood for the last one. So like, dude just loves sharks, and that's crazy. I made sure the 3rd episode did not include him, because I felt like if I watched only him, that I'm really just judging him, not Shark Week, which is not fair to him. So anyway, now they do a great job describing that Makos are usually 9 to 12 feet long and occasionally 13 feet. But this one they're looking for is estimated to be 15 feet long, which is significant, especially because they only usually get to like 13 at their largest. So to be 2 extra feet long, like, It's essentially like if the average human is 5'6", and then we're all next to like NBA players. Like they're crazy tall. That's just nuts. Now, so far, I'm enjoying this as they're talking about how makos on the west coast of the US and Mexico migrate and tend to like deeper, cooler waters. They were doing a great job of giving facts about the makos and what they typically do, their typical behaviors, what they like to eat, how they act, everything like that. So that way you could see why it is significant as to why we're going after this one and trying to catch and tag them, because we want to figure out why that one's so big compared to everything else. Now, this program has blue and mako sharks, which makes me laugh a bit because Goalies Med School had a mako as their mascot, but they had lots of blue sharks around campus and as Zoom backgrounds, which is close but not the same. Anytime I would be on her campus, or anytime she'd send me a picture and be like, "Oh my gosh, look, like the professor has our mascot," and then look, I'm like, "That's a blue shark." he's a mako, but there's lots of blue sharks around, and they're similar but very different. Blue sharks are much more slender and they're much more blue, which made me giggle every time that I would see it. They noted a bit earlier that it was the end of spring and around when the makos would be migrating. See, there it is. It was spring, not fall. My fault. Tristan discussed moving more north, so they're off the coast of LA now, which is not a bad idea at all. Now, this is kind of what I was mentioning earlier. I did get my timing wrong. I don't know why I thought it was August. It's August now. They wouldn't be recording now and then releasing it now, especially because Shark Week happened in July. But anyway, so got my timing off. But yeah, it was like the end of spring when they were doing it, and that's exactly when the waters start to warm up and sharks start to migrate. That's just how migration works. So I did like that they were heading more north. I still thought we're looking for a needle in a haystack, especially because the Pacific is a lot deeper in certain parts. So if these makos really want to stick to the cool waters, they're going to just be incredibly deep off the coast, and that's kind of that. There's not a whole lot they can do about it, but anyway, so whenever they show old pictures of sharks, I understand why people were afraid of them. They look like aliens in old photos. This is because they were showcasing how, or like the sharks that were taken, that were caught and like taken photographed of, but it was from like the 1800s where like everything's either sepia or black and white, and the cameras weren't as detailed. So like when you see a shark that's caught today, you're still like, oh, whoa, like look, you're still amazed. Like look at the size of that. Like look at how it like fierce it looks. But then when you see them, it's almost like your brain can almost complete the picture, but it fully can't. So it freaks it out more. They liked showing it, which I was like, please stop showing examples of old photos of sharks. They're creepy. Like this is bad. Creepy, weird. I don't like it. So we've jumped a bit. We're still aiming for the 15-foot individual, but now Kendall Bernay, who is she's another shark expert on there, is aiming for an even larger shark. And I just put ... greed. Okay, that made me laugh. I just straight up called her greedy for like, first of all, to find a 15-foot individual is like, oh, cool, we found Shaq, and she's like, I want Yao Ming. Like, brother, why? Like, I think Yao Ming is taller than Shaq. I don't know. I could be wrong. Now, they did show a lot of great footage of makos breaching, and it is one of my favorite things to watch. So much so that the next note I have is just, God, I love watching makos breach. So I just wanted to share that with you all. The first individual that they caught ate over 100 pounds of fish, and it wasn't even 13 feet. That just seemed insane to me, that they just kept feeding him fish and he kept eating it. And they fed him over 100 pounds of fish. Gluttony. That we're just going to go with that. Oh my God. So at this point, they're setting up an experiment where they're going to try to see if they can lure a mako from the depths. The way they did it, I had questions on. So the note goes, they filled balloons with chum and popped them underwater at 20, 40, and 60 meters, but they burst them all at the same time, which I feel is rather inefficient to lure them to the surface. I'd probably have started from the bottom and waited a bit to see if the first attracted a mako. I could be wrong, but as I'm typing this from a couch and not on the boat at Shark Week. So essentially, I was like, if we're trying to lure a shark from the depths, why would you do it all at the same time is really my question. Because even if, like, first of all, when you pop one, you have to hope that there is a mako in the area that will hear it, that will sense it, that will smell the chum, anything like that. At this point, I just kind of feel like they popped them all at the same time, which is, I mean, it's going to make a louder pop, I guess, and like create like a, I guess, not a chumpsicle, but it could essentially like cause sharks to come out. But if there's no Makos in the area and you pop all three at the same time, well, you're going to have to set it up again, versus just like doing it like pop, 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 like even doing it that much space, I think would have been a bit better. Mind you, they might have done it that way and just edited it to make it look like all three popped at the same time. Once again, I was writing these notes from my couch, not on the boat at Shark Week. So a larger Mako clipped the cage and they yell, "It just bit the cage." Liar. It did not in this shot. It nudged it. Just wanted to pull that out and yell at them for lying to me, apparently. Now, I feel like Shark Week is always trying to unveil new technology like a plexiglass cage, but it loses its excitement when we're constantly doing it. I feel like in years past, when I've been like catching like blips of it or anything like that, I feel like they tend to unveil new technology constantly. And it's not even like, oh, look at this new groundbreaking thing. Like, oh, look, we've developed a new type of BRUV, which is where they put a baited underwater camera. So that way they'll, like, the sharks will come up and it'll be like essentially their natural interactions with how they would eat. And then researchers can document it. But instead, like this time they're like, it's a plexiglass cage, which we kind of did before. And a shark went right through it because plexiglass isn't as strong as metal. It's like, okay, then we know why we shouldn't do it. Why are we doing it again? Especially because sharks are inquisitive. And the last time it came through, like, it was breaching. Yeah. I'm like, but I feel like it wouldn't, like, I've seen people break plexiglass at hockey games or at soccer games. Like, that stuff breaks and it doesn't take too much. So I feel like a shark just being inquisitive is going to take you right out. Like, that just seems dumb. It also, I feel like took away from the program because now I'm not really so worried about what the sharks are doing. I'm more like, how quickly is this cage going to break? It didn't, but it raised a bunch of questions. Now, I honestly don't have a lot to nitpick for this plexiglass dive. The sharks are just beautiful, and it does a great job showing their interactions. For all the hype they have for the plexiglass, I was like, it's going to break. It's going to be stupid. But then watching it, I was like, this is rather lovely, honestly. They do a little sensitization because we got to act like someone could die despite sharks not showing aggressive behaviors. Once again, Shark Week gonna Shark Week. Now, I do appreciate they talk some safety of using fishing line and Mako's power, meaning it can hurt them even though there is no hook. Now, this one I did want to touch on a little bit. I did think it was really cool because they were noting that I forget who the guy is. They've used him previously. He found a way to catch Makos using a fish head and line, no hook, nothing like that. So as soon as they like spit the head back out, they're good. It causes less stress. It doesn't leave a hook, nothing like that. And it's really cool. But one thing that they discussed that I had not seen them, or at least don't remember seeing them discuss previously, is that once they get a Mako on that line essentially becomes a weapon almost. It's incredibly dangerous because it's razor thin. If the shark whips across and you're in the way, it can cut into you and it can cut like a finger off. So I did like that they did note the safety of this, which is something I feel that Shark Week tends not to do other than saying something insane like the shark could bite your head off. And it's like, okay, and when have y'all ever documented that? Like, never. Like, it's a possibility. I could also win the lottery tomorrow. Like, there's a million possibilities of stuff that could happen, but don't. Like, I just felt like I did appreciate this one because I feel like they've kind of gone overboard before. Now, that was the last note I had for this. I put it was a 9 out of 10. Overall fun program, respects the sharks and showcases, in my opinion, some of the most beautiful species because they did show quite a few on this. Blues, Makos, I forget the other ones off the top of my head, but there were a lot of good shark species in this, and I definitely recommend checking it out. The last one that I have for Shark Week is Thresher Shark Stun to Kill. Now, this one I picked for a couple reasons. One, I love Thresher Sharks. Like I said, got a tattoo of one. Two, I wanted to pick like a sensationalized name because I feel like so far we've had like the world's largest Mako and we've had K-pop shark heroes. Those were rather tame because usually like Shark Week will have something like Death Cruise, like, or Dinner Cruise Last Meal or something like that, like Last Supper. And it's like, what the hell are we crucifying a shark? Like, what is going on here? And it'll like sensationalize like a shark killer. And you're like, okay, dude, like it's a shark that bit like 3 people. That's not good. But all of them are still alive and talking to us. Like they're all being interviewed. I don't think it's really a killer. And they're like, they've taken chunks out of these 3 swimmers. These are its survivors. Imagine the carnage of its victims. And you're like, no. So as soon as they had Stun to Kill, I was like, close enough. And my first note even says I'm really excited for a Thresher program as we don't have a lot of footage of Thresher sharks. So that was just really neat because, who doesn't love a good Thresher shark? Now, this one took place in the Philippines, and I had to add the Philippines to my list of shark diving locations I want to go because I want to see Thresher sharks. I have a list of places that I do want to go, like Bimini's on there. I want to go back to Cancun. I do want to go to the Philippines for whale sharks, but now I got to have them for Thresher sharks. Australia for, of course, the great whites, and then the Bahamas for tigers as well as Australia. If there's other places, like, let me know. I've been to like Cancun, it's the only one, and I got to snorkel with whale sharks. But that's the only one that I have so far. I've not gone on shark excursions anywhere else. Let me know. Okay, love you, thanks. Now, this program also gave a great diagram explaining how Thresher sharks hunt, which is rare to see anywhere. They actually did a really good diagram of it. They showed how they use their tail like a whip, and how they do it over their head versus like whipping it side to side. So I did have to give them props there as well. They also, as they have tiger sharks in this program, they take a minute to explain tiger sharks lower their fins when hunting and show that behavior. I got to give Shark Week some points here for not making the scene feel like they were going to get eaten. As I've mentioned in the previous 2, they like to make people feel like they're going to be eaten by sharks, and I think that is dumb. But in this one, they did a really great job showing that threshers and tigers, when they are hunting, lower their fins down into like more of like a TIE fighter mode, if you're a Star Wars fan. Like they'll lower their wings down there, so that way they can be more agile. But then when their like fins are flat out, then they just are cruising through the water and they're calm. So just a little shark behavior to share with everybody. In all caps, I have Thresher breach. Although the announcer said a good sign threshers are in the area. Brother, it just jumped out of the water. I think it's confirmed they're here. Like it was like you see a Thresher jump and breach the water, and the captain goes, "Well, I think that's a good sign that threshers are here." Wasn't joking either. Like he looked like he said it deadpan and so serious, and I'm like, it's over there. It's just flipping. It's like doing juggling tricks at this point. Like, what more proof do you need? Like, we're in the right area. Now, they did a shot of the reef, which was highly beautiful. It was just, I don't know why I said highly beautiful. It was just so incredibly beautiful. Highly recommended is what I meant. But yeah, it was really pretty. All the reef dives that they do in this program, they had some beautiful shots on this one. I highly recommend this program. They get 3 threshers. That's wild since they are usually solitary, or at least to my knowledge they were. And they even noted it, I believe, in the program that they'd like to be solitary. So that was really cool to see as well. And then, of course, once again, I did note on the fins up relaxed, but fins down hunting. They do touch on this quite a bit. And that is something that I try to iterate before, I believe. But if I have not, episode, I believe, 49 that we're on now. Fins down are hunting, fins up are relaxed. So, there we go. You learned something new. So they lost me when they were trying to show how powerful Thresher sharks are by having a power slab competition underwater. I get it's hard, but it feels goofy, which is probably what they were aiming for. They had the 2 researchers go ahead and slap a meter that would say how strong their slap force was. It was pretty stupid. But it's all I got to say about that. So now I do love that they explain the math and science behind how they calculate a Thresher shark's tail whip, because they were going to use its size and then I believe it's like speed or something like that. I can't remember exactly because I'm terrible at math and science. But that there, it did give a great explanation. So if you want to know the math behind it, I didn't think to write it down for some reason. So you'll have to watch the programming. But it was really cool to see because it did actually make sense in my head versus going, well, how in the world do they do that? They tell you right there. The spinning sardine bait was actually really clever, but seeing it underwater, it didn't seem to spin all that much. So I don't know if it mimicked a bait ball well, but the voiceover is saying it does. So okay. Now this is because they wanted to recreate. Well, they're trying to capture a video of a thresher shark hunting. That was the whole point of this program. Not a bad point. Of course, we have very little footage of it, so I do think it's a great idea. The only problem is that it seemed like they kind of just kept doing arts and crafts for a little while. They really enjoyed having like these fake sardines doing different things, and on the surface they essentially would have weights holding the fake sardines in place, while at the top there was an inflatable that had a motor attached that would slowly spin it like a carousel. Problem is, when they got it in the ocean, it didn't really seem to spin. So threshers didn't, like, they might have looked at it, but they weren't going to use the energy. It's kind of like when you try to give a patient who has dementia like toy tools to like lay flooring, and brother has been a construction guy, like a flooring guy, his entire life, and he looks at it and then looks at you like you're insane. It's like, I get it. Yeah, like I'm pretty sure the sharks were looking at everyone like, you do realize I'm not an idiot, right? And the divers were like, oh, they're investigating. And I'm like, I think they're kind of insulted that y'all thought this would work. Like, they're very curious. They're rather intelligent. And you have just handed them a bunch of bullcrap. And they went, we're not buying it. So they didn't. At this point, I put in all caps, my program buffered. ... No, my internet died. So this was right after they had unveiled the carousel. So I said maybe a sign from Poseidon I should stop watching here because it's about to get bad. I don't know. I don't have internet. So, yep. And then the internet is back and we're rolling. And then immediately after, they put a commercial because I'm not paying for ad free. I just want to see my tail whip, man. And then it didn't come back from the ad correctly. I had to close the app and refresh. The picture froze. So now I'm just staring at a thresher and he's staring back at me. Okay, it's working again. Dear God, does it not want me to watch this program? Okay, now we're back. I just wanted to let y'all know the internet struggles I had in the middle of this. That was probably a good 20 minutes of notes. It was just me fighting with this stupid program to finish watching it. And I say stupid, but I did really enjoy it. So, you know. Now, they keep mentioning if they get hit in the head by a thresher tail, they can get knocked unconscious. This feels about as hyped up as quicksand is in cartoons, because I really thought that'd be an issue in my life more than it has been. You know how many times I've had to deal with quicksand in my life? 0. You know how many times these divers had to deal with getting whipped in the head by a thresher shark tail? The same number, which is 0. It was very hyped up. They never even came close. Now, I feel like they're hyping up these baits that aren't really looking like sardines moving. And then they go back on land and go, man, we almost had them. They checked it out but didn't strike. As if showing me a PNG of a hamburger is going to make me bite the screen. It's just not cutting it. So this was, I forget their second one that they tried coming up with, but it also had a motor on it to some extent. And then I guess they realized, oh, the motor's the problem, not these fake looking sardines. So they now have a sardine bait on a line that is like 5 feet wide, and they're just both holding a pole and swimming. The sharks are just swimming away, but entered hunting mode. I feel like they're just rage baiting thresher sharks. So straight up, they're like, whoa, look, they're getting really annoyed. I'm like, or they're getting really aggressive. I'm like, they're annoyed, brother. Like, if I'm out trying to find food, like if I'm driving to Chick-fil-A and there is a car that keeps cutting me off and getting in my way and almost hitting me, and then like they turn a corner and I'm like, okay, thank God they're gone. And then all of a sudden they come back. I too am going to start getting annoyed. Like, I'm going to be so mad at this person. And instead, these guys are sitting there and they're like, I wonder why it's not working. Whoa, it entered hunting mode. And you're like, y'all just gotta stop. Just let him be. Let him be. Let him be. Now, they do find a real bait ball at this point, and it is honestly, it was beautiful. It was what I look for when I look for like Shark Week and underwater photos and videos. You just want to see that giant like morphing bait ball that like they nailed it in Finding Nemo. Other than like making the shapes out of the fish. But besides playing Pictionary, you want that shot of the bait ball just moving and morphing and being so cool. And that's what they had, which, you know who loves hunting bait balls? Thresher sharks. So of course they show up, and this shot that they've been waiting for a thresher to come in and whip its tail and everything, they get that shot. And it's so weird because, once again, I don't know why thresher sharks do it like that. I feel like you could take out like 27 fish by just like fast swimming back and forth and just whipping your tail. But instead they are like, that fish, Fred, he's mine, and just goes at him and just whapa, gets the one and then eats it. Now, one note that I do have, though, they did swim in the middle of the bait ball, which, when you're hoping to get thresher sharks to come in and you want to get them doing the thing, this is the only time that I was like, they're going to get hit in the head with its tail, because it's going to go for a fish, it's going to move, and it's not going to see the humans surrounded by fish, and it's going to whip a human. It didn't, thank God. But I was like, this is dumb. Don't do that. I did not write down my rating for this one, but I feel like I'd give it a 9 out of 10 on this as well. It had a lot of beautiful shots. It did a lot of explaining, which was great, a lot of educating, and as well, it was a fun thing. They were, I have to take points off for the bait. The bait was dumb. It really irritated me. So here we are. But that was the Shark Week bit. I'd say the average rating there, it was 8, like, in years past, I've given 6s and 7s. So for 8s and 9s, really good showing. But that does bring us to Shark Fest. And this one, I've given very favorable ratings in the past. We will have to see if anything has changed here or if we're still on the same path. So we started with Shark Island Showdown. So I tried to look for a hype title like Shark Week does, and this was the first one I found. Now, my first note says, I love how they showed migration of tagged sharks to Norfolk Island, little blips on a map. They quite literally show the movement. So this takes place on Norfolk Island, and they do have all the tagged sharks. They show their movement from other nearby islands to this location. I thought that was really cool versus just talking about migration and showing like a line. I thought it was neat to actually show how they do it individually and as groups in the whole 9 yards. Now, they show the team discussing safety beforehand, which is awesome because they didn't say we could lose a head or other ridiculous things. Just gave everyone their assignment if tiger sharks show and how they'll still stay safe. And now this one, they were looking for tiger sharks. First, they were looking at to see how all the sharks on this island, or around this island, I should say, if they're on the island, they're beached, and that's not good. But how all the sharks interact with each other in these islands and how they go, like the tiger sharks and the blue sharks and the Galapagos and the Duskies, how all of them interact and have a hierarchy. Do they compete? Essentially, they were trying to show this big rumble type deal. But the first thing that they actually show before they see a shark is what to do if a shark shows, what topside's going to do, what the divers are going to do, how they're all going to come together and make sure they have each other's back. Really cool stuff that I feel like a lot of places they just don't. Now, SharkFest does an amazing job of showing off more than just the most notorious sharks. They're discussing dusky sharks and giving fun facts about them. Apparently, they're super agile. That's just neat. Like, I feel like Shark Week is going to talk about like the whale sharks. They'll talk about great whites. They'll talk about tigers. Threshers were interesting. They'll talk about black tip reefs, white tip reefs, and then they'll throw like an oceanic white tip in there for you, like just to wet your whistle. But I feel like you'll hear like so many more shark species on Shark Fest, and then like you'll get others on Shark Week, but like they have to be their own like special program. Like all the alien sharks will get lumped into one. I feel like this is just like, oh hey, you click on a random Shark Fest episode, you're gonna start hearing about dusky sharks. Like that's crazy. Also in all caps, we also get Galapagos sharks. I was very excited about that. I do love Galapagos sharks as well. They're so pretty. My next note goes, I love how they explain the process of what they're doing. It eliminates a lot of the, well, why didn't they try X? Which I do have to give Shark Week props for. They did a lot of that this year. I do feel like before they would like kind of be like, we're implementing this to try and do this. Except for they don't do a great job explaining it. It's like, well, if you're trying to avoid this, why aren't you just doing that? And it's like, because Shark Week. And you're like, okay, cool. This one, I feel like they do eliminate a lot of the, well, why didn't you just do it this way? And it's like, before you can even ask that question, they're like, because if we did try doing it that way, everything would implode. And we're like, prefer if that didn't happen. Now, interestingly, they note that they can't bury dead livestock as it can harm the groundwater. So they've been putting them in the ocean where sharks could be eating them. Now, this is because there is a good farming community on Norfolk Island. But one of the big issues is that when a cow dies, they can't just bury it like we could here. Because it's a volcanic island, the groundwater is going to be contaminated really quick. If they don't have groundwater, they're surrounded by salt water, which you can't drink. So they have to be very careful. So they just kind of end up tossing them in the ocean because, tiger sharks are the billy goats of the sea. They'll eat anything. And guess what? They eat cows. So that's fun. Now, my next note literally says, dear God, they literally just yeeted the cow. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't just throwing it off a cliff. I didn't expect them to this is going to sound harsh. I didn't expect them to have a whole funeral for the cow or anything like that. I don't know why I thought they would lower it more gently, but they literally just kind of backed up a flatbed that had a dead cow on it and were like, that's close enough to the cliff, and rolled it down. It hit a couple times. I thought it was just going to go, splash cannonball. Nope, it's backflip, twisty, make 80, 90,000 points. What in the hell were we doing? It felt like a Tony Hawk combo. I was so confused. But anyway, they did then get amazing shots of the tiger sharks feeding. It was really cool to see how it came up and investigated and was like, yep, I'll eat this, and then just started eating it, which was really neat. Now, there are more tiger sharks that show up, but there wasn't really a lot of competition. It was almost as if they know that there's plenty to go around, and if they don't get it this round, there'll be more coming. Shortly after, Galapagos sharks showed up, but they gave space to the tigers as to not disrupt the hierarchy. So this was one of the things that they wanted to see, how sharks interact around the island. And in this case, they did a really good job showcasing how these sharks are able to interact with each other and give respect to the larger sharks to also not become a meal. But the larger sharks don't feel that there's so much competition that they have to fight or take out these smaller sharks as well, which is really cool. After this, they go to the next day where the plan was to tag a bunch of sharks. Oh no, I just lost my spot. Oh, there it is. Okay. Tag a bunch of sharks and see how they ping on the sensors around the island. It's simple and effective. And then I put in parentheses, unlike weird new innovations, because I feel like, once again, Shark Week will be like, we put Dickie Chevelle, which I think this is also the first year that I didn't watch Dickie Chevelle programming again and again and again. I feel like I always end up watching his stuff, and he's on every Shark Week episode. But this year was Tristan, and good for Tristan. But yeah, they put him in a fake dead whale before to film how sharks eat, and they're eating the thing he's on. I'm like, oh, this just feels so unsafe. But shout out Dickie Chevelle. You can't do Shark Week versus Shark Fest without mentioning him. I do hope one day to get Devin Masson back, because I love the way he filmed Monster Mako. That was crazy. Now, this is one of my favorite parts. So there's birds that like to do what's known as rafting, where they'll hang out in a large group out on the water. And they do that, and they return to their burrow at dusk to avoid land predators. The thing is, there's no land predators on Norfolk Island, but there are hella sharks. So, survival instincts of a potato, I'd say, except for even potatoes, I think, have a better survival instinct here, because they at least try to stay underground and not get picked and eaten. But these birds are oh, hey, we don't got a single predator on land. Better stay in the water where we keep getting eaten. I was like, okay. Now, I did also want to add that I think it was really cool that the sharks will eat so many different things, like birds, fish, cows, other sharks. They just eat it all. The diet of sharks is crazy. Sometimes the horn shark likes eating other shark eggs. Epaulet sharks like small crustaceans. So sometimes, depending on your species, you'll have a bit of a different diet, and you'll have different things at play here. But for the most part, sharks in general have a huge, wide diet, which is just insane. From here, they're using equipment to ultrasound a tiger shark, and they see that she's pregnant, which is really exciting. And that's how I want to see new equipment used. Hey, we can quickly get an ultrasound on a tiger shark that we just caught, and we can see that she's pregnant and release her back to the ocean. And also, we're able to attach a tag that shows where the tiger shark is going to pup, because this is information we don't really get often either. So I thought that it was really cool that we get to use all these new cool toys to help with shark investigation and understanding and research, versus, hey, we made a dead whale, a fake one, and we put a person in it to film it, and it exploded wrong, and now there's chum inside with the person because we just thought, oh, wouldn't this be so cool? And we also put 9,000 pounds of chum in the ocean. So we've attracted every shark in the Atlantic to this one location. Isn't this cool? And it's like, my God, my heart, I'm stressed. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, thought it was cool that we actually get some useful equipment. I'll go with. I've been holding on to that for a while. That just came out of me. They also start showing patterns in the data through the episodes, such as tissue samples of Dusky and Galapagos sharks, showing that they're eating other fish, that they are only eating fish but no seabirds. Now that is interesting because, of course, as I mentioned, there's that huge rafting bird species that is getting picked off by things, and apparently it is the larger sharks and not the smaller ones. But they also show that Galapagos and Dusky sharks are eating scraps from the fishers, filleting their catch. So they're getting, like, there's so many food sources on this island, and this is my last note for this episode. They said they were able to deduce that species are able to interact but don't have to compete as often because the island has so much to offer for food sources. So, like, the tigers are getting the big fish in the open areas. They're also getting the birds. They're also getting the cows. So they're getting a lot there. And then little bits that are left over of the cow are going to the Dusky and Galapagos sharks. But of course, if the Dusky and Galapagos sharks aren't getting their fill, then they can go over to where the fishers return to fillet their catch and toss the scraps over, and they'll happily take the scraps. So there's just a lot of food available that it's not really causing competition, which isn't causing sharks to have to go after each other to catch that. Gave that one a 9 out of 10. So then I went with World's Biggest Mako, which, hold on, I want to see the title of the last one. I got to scroll for this. Biggest Mako on Earth was the Shark Week, and we have World's Biggest Mako over here, which my first note is, it starts off a bit hype beast. They were really like, Lubada, whoa, look at that. And I'm like, oh dear God. So they noted that Makos are endangered everywhere except New Zealand. So shout out New Zealand. Way to have your Mako population doing well. Now, they also then do show one of my favorite shark film people, Kenneth Scully. Oh my God. He's funny. I just love him. He's like out there. He's a bit weird, but he does good stuff and gets great shots. And it's just a big, like, everyone else is like, we got to stick to defend the sharks. He's like, I've got a camera because I wanted to bite it. It's like, Kenna, why? You're going to lose a finger, Kenna, no. But the goal of this program was to see why these Makos are able to grow so large in this area compared to elsewhere. Now, one thing that irked me about this, and I will explain it again later, but I'm going to kind of do this in the chronological order that it happened. The filming is very dark, so it's hard to see. They called the dive early as they also couldn't see, which would explain the dark filming. I was really not understanding why they were like getting these, like, what I was used to with Shark Fest is these vibrant, beautiful scenes, the sharks doing their things, like, it just really good educational bits, like the really blue, vibrant water, the colorful reefs. And instead I'm getting this, like, almost like from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, where like everything's just darker and the Dementors are everywhere, and you're like, this isn't the warm Harry Potter I'm used to. Like, this isn't the Shark Fest that I'm used to here. What is going on? I do love how they film the communication without a bunch of jumps or cuts. It's a lot easier to follow what's going on. Now, this program did a great job of allowing a full conversation to be had, whether that be over the radio or between the team before they go for a dive. I feel like you'll see some very obvious cuts in other programs, but this one, I feel like it did a great job showcasing the entire conversation. So that way there wasn't so much of a disconnect or anything like that. Now, they come up on a Mako annihilating a swordfish, which shows the sheer size and power of the shark, which is really cool. I almost hit the Gumbus from TikTok, very cool, which if you guys are also on Gumbus Talk, I highly recommend you go over to Gumbus Talk. She's a great little cat. But anyway, it is just Gumbus, Gumbus on TikTok. That's just a shout out for shout out's sake. She's very motivational, and she wears costumes sometimes. Pretty dress lady. Anyway, so first of all, swordfish are not small. So to see a Mako just shark handling See, you like that? Shark handling this fish was rather crazy. One warning though, I did forget to mention this. They kept saying mako because that's how they say it over in New Zealand. That just was driving me crazy as a selfish American who's used to calling them makos. So that did throw me off. Now the program also did a good job explaining the science and the why behind what they're doing. Taking a biopsy to see diet, population notes, and more. I did think that was really cool as well. Once again, when you explain what you're doing, people ask fewer questions. It leaves, I focus more on the program in front of me. I'm not really sitting here thinking, I wonder why they did that and if they could have done that better. Instead, I'm like, that makes complete sense. Or like, why are they taking a biopsy? Like, what would they need to do with that? Oh, they're doing it because it explains X, Y, and Z. So it's really cool. Now, these sharks did not want to cooperate though, as they were feeling real fired up to be on TV. I get it. I'd be excited to be on Shark Fest as well. These sharks weren't really going along with anything that they wanted to do. They were really feisty. Anytime bait was in the water, they were going after it really quick and then not really like settling down to allow them to work really comfortably with them. But they got it done because we got to give a shout out to Ronnie, the researcher, for getting her first shark biopsy sample. So claps in the comments for, I would say claps in the chat, but we're not streaming. Follow me on Twitch. But yeah, she got her first biopsy sample and she was really excited about it. And it was really cool. It was really fun to see. Now, they've been hitting a good number of rough seas, which makes me realize I don't think I could have been a marine biologist like this because I'd be seasick constantly. Appreciate them from the shore. And this is from someone who has been on many boats and has gotten seasick many times. Charter fishing trips, it'll happen occasionally. On the whale shark snorkel trip, got seasick there as well. Felt very bad, but that boat was a rockin'. Also, the whole just look out on the horizon thing, I tried it. It didn't work. I had to look away from the horizon because as I was moving with the horizon, it made it worse. I was like, I got to look at the sea right in front of me. And that helped until it didn't. Anyway. Now, there was a blue shark that was really curious about the team, and they used sticks to push it away because it's better than using your hand. Now, I did note this because this is something that I had talked about forever ago, but I don't get to talk about too often. I've discussed pushing a shark away from you, especially with the gills, or if it's a hammerhead, trying to use the hammer to redirect it. But once again, it is like an 900,000 pound shark coming at you, and it does have a lot of power. So if you can, like, if you have anything else that you can use to push it away from you other than your hand or leg or anything like that, don't use your head either. Dear God. I feel like I have to say that for some folks, but like if you have like a stick or like anything else you can like poke the shark away from you with, that is so much better because if it reacts and it lurches back and tries to bite whatever is poking it, if it bites an inanimate object and crushes it, oh no. If it bites your hand off, you're out of hand and you only get 2 of those. So really, watching Mako's breach is amazing. I would love to sit on a boat and watch him breach for hours. I'm kind of realizing from my notes now at this point, I like watching sharks breach. Every time I'm at the beach, I hope to see it. I've never. Now, Kinna does stress me out with some of his decisions, as I mentioned earlier. Like the decision to cut the shark cage holes a bit larger or deciding he'll swim out of the cage to film sharks better. Well, this is like he's on land and he's just like essentially he's got a buzz saw that he's taken to the cage, and the other researcher's like, what are you doing there, Ken? And he's like, oh, I'm out here and I'm deciding I'm going to make the cage a bit wider so I can get through and I can swim out if I want to. Sorry for that horrible accent, but I'm like, okay. And then before I could say anything, the other guy is like, what if a shark swims in? Like, you kind of negate the point of the cage there, Kenna. Like, my God love him. Thankfully, nothing happened. But I was like, Kenna, you are stressing me out. You've made this like a 6-foot hole now. Like, all of you can walk out of it. Like, good God. Now, I do feel like they are very realistic about what these sharks can do and are taking precautions to protect the divers. So because they're dealing with large sharks, they are, and makos that are fast as all get out, they are talking with the divers once again about safety and what these sharks can do. They're not sitting here saying they'll take your head off, they'll take an arm, they'll note that they're quick and agile and they can turn on a dime. If this happens, we're going to do this. Same thing as the last episode. They're showing all the safety, which I absolutely love and would love for more programs to do. Now, these waters do not want to give the divers any visibility. So that is pretty much my gripe with this episode. It is all dark filming. I feel like they didn't really get too many good, clear shots, and I think it's just because the ocean wasn't cooperating with them. But that is one of the things that I do like about Shark Fest is it's going to be authentic. They're not going to they're going to be out there for as long as they are, and they're going to document it. They're going to not going to like ham it up and be like, "Oh, here's some footage from another dive." Like no, like they're going to be like, hey, this dive kind of sucked because the visibility wasn't there. That's what it's like being a marine biologist. Sometimes you can plan stuff for months. You can get out there and something just doesn't cooperate with you. Or you can have perfect visibility, everything's set up right, the right bait, the right fish are nearby, and the shark just doesn't want to show up. Sometimes that happens. Now, very excitingly, though, they say that a hammerhead showed up. They didn't say exactly which species. I feel like it was a winghead. It looked very narrow and very angled like a winghead's would be. So that was really cool. If I'm wrong, I'm bad at identifying winghead sharks, apparently. So, we'll just kind of leave that one up. And then I like that they use intense music versus spooky or fear-driving music. Now, this is a thing that I feel like Shark Fest does really well, where they'll kind of have like the Avengers fight scene music where you're like, yeah, like that's so cool. Look at that. And like it gets intense and gets you into the show, but it doesn't make you feel like you're about to watch one of the divers die, which I really appreciate because, I don't want to watch that. I'd like to watch sharks being fun and swimming and eating fish and breaching. I don't want to see them biting people. Like, that's just not my cup of tea. Now, they did the stupid cut to commercial as the shark was lunging at a camera. Everyone was fine. So I did have to take points off for that because up until this point, they hadn't done it. But then, of course, end of the episode, they got to do something like that. They ended up getting some good shots. I gave this one a 7 out of 10. Which so far is the lowest rating. And that is only because it didn't really do a whole lot for me in the sense of the shots were all very dark because it was authentic. They weren't going to ham it up. They did a lot of weird stuff. Like this one kind of felt like they let Kinna like go a little mad with it, which God love him. But like, Kinna, why are we cutting holes in shark cages? What are we doing there? But it was just one of those that I liked it a lot still. I'm not going to lower it any lower than a 7, but it just didn't give me, I guess, the wow factor that I'm used to when watching the Shark Fest. Like, Shark Week wants you to like have these big reactions. Shark Fest wants you to look at the beauty in it, at least in previous years. And I felt like that program didn't really give me what I was looking for. I didn't hate it. I definitely would watch it again. But that is why I gave it a 7. Now, this next one, I do have to give a little bit of disclaimer. It's not gross or gory or anything like that, but it is investigating the death of a man from over 3,000 years ago. And the first note says, so it's called Attack of the Samurai Sharks. They're looking at a man who had died 3,000 years ago that may have been killed by a shark off the coast of Japan. So this one we are going to be talking about death and dying, stuff like that. So just a little warning beforehand. And this is also the last episode that I have, so I might lose some of you here. If I do, I apologize. Now, my first note post that is not shark related at all, but my God, Japan is beautiful. The shots they got, like the B-roll of Japan, it is a beautiful country. Let me tell you, like, I gotta say, I think Japan, China, and Italy are some of the most beautiful countries in the world. Now, they were able to rule out metal weapons as the body is from before metal was used in weapons in Japan. So they, of course, they're trying to see what could have happened here one way or another. And they find out that essentially they see these like serrations on the bones and they figure, okay, like this looks like it was cut with metal, but metal didn't exist yet here. So it's not an option. Now, this program does have some of the beautiful underwater shots I was looking for. It was very cool to see, very beautiful. They showcase a bunch of different sharks. Highly recommend it. They discuss various sharks like the hound shark that was practically harmless, although still needs to be treated with respect. I do like that because once again, hound shark can still bite you, but it's not going to take a limb like other sharks would. Now, I also like that they use Mr. Naylor, who manages the International Shark Attack files at University of Florida, to help explain how this could be a shark, because I feel like sometimes if you don't give someone's credentials or their credibility, it does take away from it a little bit. So I do appreciate that they were able to do that. Now, they also note the differences in species, such as reef sharks and blacktip reef sharks. Of course, in many species like those that are very similar, they do a really good job here of explaining like, hey, here's how they're similar, but also here's how they're different. So they're not going to be the exact same, And if you see one, they're not going to all act the same either. The sharks have different ways of showing that they're hunting, showing that they're threatened, anything like that. So they're not going to go ahead and just run around and do anything weird like that. Now, they do confirm why they feel it was a shark that killed this man versus other options. Now they want to determine which shark could have done it. Problem is, Japan has a lot of sharks. They're one of the few places in the world you can see alien sharks, although I feel we can rule a lot of them out already, simply because they're really deep in the ocean. They tend to not come find folks. It also does have a lot of large sharks like tiger sharks, great whites, makos. They have a whole lot of sharks out in Japan, so right now the suspect list is hundreds of sharks long. Now, they do a great job showing off different sharks and their features, which I also feel in a show that you're trying to show which shark could have done this. Let's show why behind what we're doing, so that way we're not just having, oh, hey, here's this shark, we think it did it. Next shark, here's why we think this shark did it. Like, they actually go through and discuss what's going on, which is really cool. Now, at this point, we're at the halfway point of the episode, and I'm guessing tiger shark that grabbed this man while he was fishing. So, with that, I'm just taking a shot. I'm like, we've shown these bones that have these teeth marks. I'm going to go ahead and look and see what I think is happening here, and I think it's a tiger shark. Will I be right? Let's find out. My next note is literally, and they literally just put up an oceanic white tip. Shipwreck shark is a great option. If we're going to go for which shark bit a person and possibly killed them, maybe the one that's been documented doing it after ship crashes and also airplane crashes. Good guess. Really good guess. Shortly after, though, they're giving great reasons for why it could be an oceanic white tip. They know they want to flip to a tiger. Come on now. So I was really pushing for this tiger narrative. They were really pushing the oceanic white tip until they pointed out why it wouldn't be an oceanic white tip, which I believe the reasons that they gave were because oceanic white tips are, once again, way out in the ocean. This guy was not way out in the ocean when he passed. I put, they just ruled it out because they don't bite a whole leg off. What a weird thing to celebrate. So the skeleton I would like to add is missing. I believe it's it's left hand and it's right leg, but like it's right leg like up by the thigh. So they don't do that. Oceanic white tips, they don't tend to do that. They take a few bites out of folks, which is why they're known as a shipwreck shark, because they have taken folks out, but they don't really just take off a whole leg at a time. They did note great whites and tigers now. So I said, did I snipe this? Have I seen this before and forgot with a bunch of question marks? They're discussing the differences between great whites and tigers, as they are often lumped together but are very different sharks, which once again, as mentioned earlier, they did that with the reef sharks and black tip reef sharks. So it's rather cool to see that they're going to do this with other species as well. If you want to learn a lot about different shark species, this is the program for you, because they also don't discuss this man's death in a way that's like horrifying or scary. It's very matter of fact and educational, and it's not spooky at all, really, which is cool. So they're discussing the fatal bite in 1992 where the white shark was the culprit. This is where I put, yikes, I think it might be a white shark. Then the next one underneath that, I said, oh, damn it, the expert said he thinks the bite resembles a white shark bite. Then in all caps, but wait, a different spot is not consistent with white shark bites. But they said it might be in multiple sharks, and tigers and white sharks wouldn't work together. But white sharks are solitary. Then I put in all caps, they're saying it could be a tiger shark. I'm so smart. I typed this and it isn't confirmed yet. This next note just says, bruh, they just said it might have been them, but they might not ever know. You bums got me hyped and didn't even confirm if I'm right. So they never tell us which shark it was, because they end with, we weren't there and we will never know for fact what happened here. Thanks, dog. I got real into this for you to just get me involved and invested and then be like, figure it out yourself. No. So I gave that one a 9 out of 10 because I thought it did a great job showcasing all the sharks around Japan, showing off the beautiful scenery, the beautiful ocean shots that I'm looking for. It was really cool to kind of be on this like murder mystery type adventure. I literally only took a point off because I was salty and I didn't like that they didn't tell me if I was right or not. So salty 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 if I'm not being salty. Overall, I feel like they both did a great job, Shark Week and Shark Fest. Shark Week is always going to be a very sensationalized, but they took a step back from their fear mongering this year. I felt Shark Fest did the usual education, but I felt I didn't get as many wow shots this year. And that, of course, was just in these 6 shows that I'm talking about. Of course, throughout the entire events, both Shark Week and Shark Fest, they did do a little bit like Shark Week did do a little bit of that fear mongering. Shark Fest had a lot of those wow shots. But I do feel I'd have to give Shark Week a good pat on the back because this year their celebrity interaction was very much let's show how awesome sharks are. While in the past they did Mike Tyson punches a shark, Michael Phelps races a shark, Tiffany Haddish looks at how sharks reproduce and damn, they're scary. Like it was just one of those things that they just kind of keep showing like not the like almost the worst sides of sharks for some reason with these celebrities, and that just frustrated the daylights out of me. Thankfully, I think both did a great job. I mean, just based on these 6 episodes, I'd call it a draw. I feel like if you watch any of the programs, they do a good job. And I honestly, I don't think I'm going to declare a winner this year. So go watch whatever you want to watch. It's going to be Sharky and you're going to enjoy it. Or I will turn this podcast around. Do you understand me? Anyway, but thank you guys for listening. That is what I have for Shark Week versus Shark Fest 26. I did get the year correct this time. Isn't that exciting? Follow along on social media for updates regarding anything Sharky or anything that we're doing here. If you hear ads, please listen to them for a minute. Appreciate it. And also, I appreciate all you guys hanging out with us, listening along. I think this is my longest episode yet, as it's officially over an hour. So that's crazy, unless I do a bunch of editing, but we'll find out. But I appreciate y'all being here. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you in the next one.